to the cloud. Okay, thank you everyone for joining for our event in March. The topic at our main event was the future of work, and I had actually it was my roommate who came in and talked about high performance teams and what that really looks like in and how having a high performance team, if you're familiar with the common phrase or from like there's corporate training all over the world for that, um, reflects in working in a hybrid work environment, a newly remote environment, a post-COVID world. So that was a great conversation last week. And this week, I get the pleasure of bringing Trina McCarroll in to speak with us virtually. Trina, I forget where exactly in Canada you are, but I'm going to let you do a full intro.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super passionate about the future of work and how we can make work more meaningful, both for the employees, for the managers, and then for the organizations to make a bigger impact. So I'd love to share my screen and get started with my presentation, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Let's see how I can.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, I want to, from a format perspective, Trina and I discussed that we do a brief primer on what human leadership looks like and then facilitate a conversation.
Yes, absolutely. That sounds really great. And I've put some of the interactions in the throughout the conversation, and so then we can have some time for um, reflection for your own leadership, and then some discussion time as well. So I'm working on presenting. Let's present in a new window. There we go. Presenter view, new window for me, and I'll put that over here. And I'll make sure you can see the right one. Share my screen. Alrighty, can you see courageous leadership on your side?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, fantastic. There we go. So yes, I am all about how to be a stronger manager and a better human. And I've had these passions for 15 years in terms of making work more human and being able to make that a bigger impact and more profitability and more meaningfulness for the organization and for the employees and management. But the last 2 years have really taken that off. Like it is now, I'm not the only one thinking this now. Tons of employees are thinking this, and tons of managers are thinking there's got to be a better way that rather than the old school command and control, there's got to be a better way. So it's often called maybe human-centered leadership, and I like to call it courageous leadership because it takes a lot of courage to lead in this new way. But with skilling up, it's totally learnable and totally doable. So I try to be encouraging that it's worth it and it's worth learning how to lead this way, even though not many of us have had models to show us this way before. We can learn together as we go. So building your courageous leadership. I would love to hear, and it could be in the chat or maybe quickly with our group. I'd love to hear if you wanted to quickly introduce yourself, the type of role that you have, and a moment of joy from your day. Could be the smallest thing, your favorite coffee, or it could be something really good for your day. So I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, I'm gonna go. So hi, I'm TJ Way. My role in SIM, I am the secretary of the board. I used to be an IT project manager, and I have since started my own business, helping other small businesses get a hold, rather take control of their financials. And I'm moving into this space where I'm really more doing money mindset around abundance with what's possible with your business. So building wealth with your business, designing a lifestyle that works for you while running your business. So that is the role I'm transitioning into.
Yeah.
And a moment of joy today. I had to take a moment, but actually, I have to say that I opened up while we were waiting the fundraising site for the Alzheimer's charity that we just got set up, and seeing that like come to life and be set up so easily and quickly so that we can respond to what's going on with our members, that's a moment of joy for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you, TJ. Mark, would you like to go next?
Sure. Mark Weselmersky, in the chapter, I'm currently the vice president. I've been, since I've been doing a lot of talking, I guess everybody knows I work for Avnet. I have been with the senior manager of systems administration, and my role is changing a little bit. Now I've got more of a global role as I'm bringing in folks from Europe as well. And moment of joy. Well, I'm going to go to yesterday because that was joyful as far as jumping up and down, and that's because I almost had a gentleman I thought who was going to leave the company, but we pulled together HR and senior management, and we were able to keep him on, and he actually accepted our counteroffer. So it was a big sigh of relief because, as everybody knows, it's a very tough job market out there, right? So, hanging on to, and he's a 28-year employee of the company, right? And actually consider, leaving, but you know what? We were able to do the right thing. So, needless to say, that made my week, my month, my year. So.
That's a great update, Mark.
That's a very good moment of joy. Retaining those you want to retain are cause for celebration. That's great. Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Any other volunteers?
Sure, I'll go.
Thank you.
Chris Sula. I'm a faculty member at ASU. Former CIO, was in IT for about 38 years. And I'm also an associate director of, I think, education for SIM. I support Dan Mazzola in some of the educational activities for SIM. Moment of joy today. I'm gonna have to go back to also moment of joy yesterday.
Sure.
I had a student send me a note that they won first place in a hackathon contest, and said that they attributed that to taking one of my courses. So that made my day.
Very cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What a great moment. Thank you for sharing. Nice to meet you, Chris. Anyone else interested in going next? Mary, are you able to go?
No, I don't have anything joyful today.
I understand. Not every day.
I'm always okay.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Would you like to chime in?
I can go
Sure.
last or next or
Sure,
whatever
thank
it is.
you.
My name is Anuya Shevre. For the chapter, I'm the Director of Engagement, and I work for APS as well, lead their digital experience, which means product management and user experience for digital transformation solutions. I was going to say the same thing that TJ said. It was a joy to bring the site up, but I'll bring us another moment of joy that I had today. I FaceTimed with my 5-month-old niece, and her smile brought a lot of joy to me today.
That's wonderful. So precious.
That's a good joy.
That's a really good joy. My niece learned to walk 3 days ago, like, the one little step between the couch and the table. And now today I FaceTimed her and she was taking like 20 steps.
Wow.
Took off. So those are such sweet moments to enjoy. Thank you so much for indulging with me in some people call them soft skills, and I don't call them that because they're challenging. They are hard skills or difficult skills. I like to call them human skills, and they're so important, as Mark mentioned, right? Those relationships, those staff, that makes or breaks our companies, and that's how we provide our services, is through our staff. So in talking about the future of work and courageous leadership, this is really what the new focus is on in the workplace, of being okay with humans and emotions and real life, not just professional. as maybe it was in the past decades. So talking a bit about what we're going to talk about today. Who are you? I've caught a little snippet of who you are. Who am I? I'll tell you a little bit about me. What is courageous leadership? Why is it important? Why is it so dang hard? What are some of the components of leadership, of courageous leadership? And depending if we have time, I might take you through a little exercise on the first step in getting started. Or some of you maybe have already started this. So I'll be looking forward to hearing from you, and then how you can strengthen your courageous leadership. Just an acknowledgement that I am located, my company is called Hello Courage, and I'm located in Treaty 6 territory with many Indigenous peoples, including Cree, Papachase, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, and Nakota Sioux, and want to acknowledge the deep respect and honor of all histories, languages, and cultures of Indigenous peoples, both past and current. All right, in the chat, for a quick second, if you know what land is beneath your feet, whether the original Indigenous people land, what they call it, or what it's called in contemporary terms, what material is underneath your feet, and what is on your feet. I've had some really great answers to this question before, so if it's a really funny answer, feel free to, I'll give you a prize if you can beat the funniest answer I've had to these questions before, but feel free to put them in the chat. If you know the land beneath your feet, the material under your feet, and what is on your feet. Good year, okay, and tile and nail polish, that's a good one, that's on your feet. That's a good one. Cave Creek, wood flooring, and Nike Air Force One. Those sound good. Those sound good. And tempeh, carpet, and probably some form of fungus. That's probably that beats it. That's the best answer. I've had tiger slippers, someone's told me before, but that's even better. So that's great. Thank you. All right, so a little bit about me. I am from Camrose, Alberta, Canada, which is near Edmonton. And this is me with my 80s bangs, and grew up with giant families and farming. I don't know if any of you are familiar with farming. And so this is how I got into this line of work, that those are just my basically people that live within 20 minutes of me that I see on a weekly basis, and all my relatives. And so of course, I had to become like a leadership, collaborative group facilitator. I'm oldest of all of the cousins and just can't get enough of people. So that's how I came to be in like a leadership. I'm a leadership advisor and a strategic planner. And so I get to help organizations and individuals merge strategy and culture in their business to get the biggest impact.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is there as big of a cultural gap between Edmonton and Calgary as I hear?
There is certainly a friendly competition of everyone in Calgary is supposed to hate Edmonton, everyone in Edmonton. That's true. Culturally, they wear a few more cowboy hats in Calgary, but otherwise pretty close.
I understand the people in Edmonton make fun of them, that they're just US people that forgot where they were.
Yes, yep, exactly. Yep. But I'm impressed you know the city names. That's great.
I like hockey, so.
Exactly, that's right. Yep. Yes. So a little bit about courageous leadership. These are some of the funny things about when you get a new boss and you actually love them. Some of the greatest moments in history were fueled by emotional intelligence. Connection doesn't just happen on its own. You have to design for it. I don't always ask my employees how they are, but when I do, I walk away before they answer. You know, some of all these good maybe things we make fun of, but some people actually live with in their day-to-day work lives. So some of those are certainly the old school command and control, authoritative, give direction, do as I say, little regard for the whole person. Then I have the spectrum. You can still hear me? Okay. Other end of the spectrum, that they're too nice, where they kind of let the employees get away with anything. Sometimes the managers will do a bit of work for the employee if they're struggling or they don't want to have hard conversations. So I call those too nice of leaders and managers. And then in the middle, there's courageous. And a leader doesn't have to be anyone with a certain title. It can be anyone in an organization, in a family, in community organizations, in SIM, right? We take on leadership roles in all aspects of our lives. So it's not just manager. It's being a leader that you want to help grow the potential of people and processes in all facets of life. So I'm really fascinated and passionate about how to be courageous in our leadership. So what I like to explain courageous leadership is combining the humanity with the accountability. So we're wanting to do both facets, and we're wanting to make it possible for your team to thrive and for the manager to thrive. So the components that I teach of how courageous leadership comes about, we start with the authentic leader, and then we have a connected team, and we achieve big results together. So why is it so important? You may be familiar with all of the research and all of the literature that's been conducted, but employees and teams perform better with courageous leadership. And as TJ mentioned about high performing teams, so many research studies have been conducted on better performance, better employee retention, which we know has cost savings, less healthcare costs when employees are less stressed and less like toxic work environments. So we know that employees and teams perform better when we have courageous human-centered leadership. And as we mentioned earlier about employees and customers are expecting it. The future of work is that we are more collaborative, we are less command and control. And so it's going to become a way of life in the future, and especially the new generations that are joining the workforce. They want to belong, they want to be able to bring their whole selves to work. They want it to be okay that they can voice a question or a criticism or a new way of thinking. And so we need to learn how to manage that and bring out the best in everyone. And the last point, it's important that we're all human, right? We all make mistakes. We all have stresses at home. We all have things that we're good at work. We all have emotions at work. So it's so important that we can just become comfortable with that, even though most of us have not been taught that, or we haven't been role modeled it. It's so important that we're all human and we're all part of the team, that we can collaborate better when we come together. But it's really, really quite hard. Mostly, humans are amazing yet mysterious creatures. We're illogical a lot of the time. We are emotional beings who sometimes use logic, as much as we like to think, and maybe as much as information management professionals like to think that humans are logical. We're emotional first, and then we can access parts of our logical brains when we're in a certain emotional state. And so I think that it's just really important to recognize that humans need all of this connection, and that's how we're wired, and that's how our DNA is structured, that we need one another, and we need that sense of belonging, and we want to feel that we're able to connect with those around us. And at the same time, we can't just all be having like tea and crumpets all day long talking about our feelings. We still have to get work done at the same time. So that's why courageous leadership can seem hard. And at first it is awkward and clunky and slow, but the more that we do it, the more we get better at it. And we can scale up to be able to teach our teams and be able to lead in that way. So as I mentioned, there's authentic leader, connected team, and big results that are the three components of building courageous leadership. And it really does start with the leader in their own self-awareness. And then we're able to build skills after we build awareness, and then we can build confidence. So it's the awareness, the skills, and the confidence that we can piece together as we build our courageous leadership. All right, quickly in the chat, love to hear from you. What's one thing that's surprised you so far? And if you would like to put in the chat, why do you think not many people use this type of leadership style? One thing that surprised you or resonated with you? And why do you think maybe not many people use this type of leadership style yet?
Is there a poll that I'm just not seeing it?
I think we'll just do it in the chat. I think it's not, the poll's not coming up, but surprising that a farmer is an expert in management styles. That's great. And people are afraid of opening up their emotions. I totally agree with you, Mark. Yeah, that's great. Haven't been taught to be comfortable with them, right? We've kind of been taught to kind of push them away. And that's certainly true. Yeah, that's certainly true. I will be honest, I haven't, yeah.
I was just going to say, also understanding that most times your first reaction is an emotional reaction. And so therefore you have to think about things before you fully react, especially when it comes to employees.
Totally agree. Often that first reaction is an emotional, illogical, first reaction. And then you want to give yourself time to calm down and be able to access the logical parts of your brain. But it's not what comes first for anyone. Yeah. Really resonated. We like to think we're logical, but we're emotional. And then we apply logic to our behaviors. That's a great way to phrase it, TJ. That's a great way to phrase it. Why not used yet? We don't teach people, men, to label their emotions, so they can't have a conversation when they can't label. So much agree. It's so much about the vocabulary and just being able to first name emotions and identify them, of like, how does that emotion feel in myself, and then being able to use the language to talk about it with others. Yeah, much agreed. Yeah. Emotions exist in the workplace, and not just anger and frustration. Those are common ones, right? When a project is like difficult and you're having a conversation, and but sometimes there's joy and friendship. There's all sorts of emotions in the workplace. That's great. Thank you. Alrighty, so a little bit more into the courageous leadership components. As an authentic leader, I'd like to teach that we live out our values, we embrace your story, and we maximize your strengths. So this is a little bit about the first thing as an authentic leader is you have to know your values. And you have to know your personal values, what's most important to you, what is driving your heart and soul in the work that you do and in the life that you live. We can't and aren't able to compartmentalize our life as much. Like, I think I was certainly taught to compartmentalize my life, right? Like, you show up this way in the workplace, and you can show up this way with your family, and you can show up this way with the community group. But really, we're one person, and we have one heart and one soul to present to the world and engage from. And so we like to be integrated, and that we're living out our values regardless of what setting we're in. So I like to take leaders on an exercise about identifying your values. And then embracing your story. This is a little bit about maybe why I shared my farming roots and backgrounds. I'll admit I haven't drove the tractor. I was raised on a gravel road with 4 other extended families and 14 grandchildren. And the grandpa was it's a 4-generation family farm now. but it's a very large family farm. So I haven't driven the tractor, but I was raised on a grain farm. But I probably would have never told that story 10 years ago, starting out in my leadership world, right? I would have been like just in my suit and just like very professional and very accomplished. But I've really learned about embracing what makes us different and embracing our own stories and those that inspire us in our own lived experiences really lead to authentic leadership. That always have to look outside of yourself or look outside to whether it's, world famous role models or a president that you admire or a celebrity that you admire or a CEO of a giant company, that often there is people in your own life that have characteristics and values that you want to embody and carry on, and those matter. So I really have found that you can draw from that and people connect to that and it's inspiring. So we can lean into that rather than shy away from it. So embrace your story and then maximize your strengths. You may have heard of the strengths-based movement. Has anyone heard of the strengths-based movement? Marcus Buckingham, yes? Okay, couple yeses, couple no's. Huge fan of strengths-based movements. Basically, the premise is focus on your strengths and neutralize your weaknesses, but don't try to bring up your weaknesses to all the way up the top. At least neutralize them so they're not hurting you in your career and your life, but focus all of your energy and your passion and your time. You have exponential growth in your strengths. And becoming a parent and now raising teenagers, that certainly is a daily thing for me to take into practice, and with my employees that find their strengths, cultivate their strengths, and within myself as a leader of that's where my best potential is to contribute to the organization and to the community and to my life is through my strengths. Don't spend all day trying to fix my weaknesses. So that's a bit about the authentic leader. For connected team, I really like to challenge the leaders that I coach to articulate the behaviors that they want to see to live out the values. So often many companies have like integrity or maybe respect or innovation for their values, which is all lovely on a poster in the coffee room. But what's more important is articulating the behaviors that the company or the manager wants to see those lived by. And they'll be unique for every organization. But you can't just say like, we're going to have integrity in our decision making, but how would that play out on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis? And how do we want our team to treat one another? You can get really specific on the behaviors that you want to see. And so that helps to build a connected team. Humanize your work. This is a lot about, has anyone heard of vulnerability? You're in Texas, right? So Brene Brown, vulnerability. And basically vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, or emotional exposure. And it happens every day when we're putting ourselves out there that we can't control the outcome. So whether it's trying to retain an employee that's maybe wanting to leave, but you're wanting them to stay and negotiating of how you can make that happen, you don't know the outcome. Or applying for jobs is certainly vulnerable, or dating someone is vulnerable, right? And we're all vulnerable at giving a big important presentation. You don't know how it's going to be received. We're all vulnerable so many times each day and each week as we put ourselves out there. And so I think it's just getting comfortable with the uncomfortableness of vulnerability and making that okay. The other part that goes along with vulnerability, and again to Brene Brown's work, is boundaries. That a lot of the leaders, I mentioned earlier, a lot of the leaders that I help are maybe like too nice. And so they don't have many boundaries about, often they're perfectionists. So they just want to do everything really, really well or help out employees over and over. and they forget to think about themselves and what they want in the equation. And so vulnerability and boundaries, they go hand in hand of humanizing your work, being humans, benefiting those around you and benefiting yourself. And then finally, for a connected team is fill your trust jar. That as you work in your teams and your organizations, trust is so critical to a functioning team and a high performing team. And trust can be taught. It's not an all or nothing, I trust you or I don't. There's 4 main components of trust, and you can teach them to one another, and you can talk with one another about how to build them. And so it's a really vital component that's just needs intention behind it to continually build the trust in your connected team. And then finally, I'll go quick on this portion of big results. So I'm not wanting to be just like be nice for the sake of being nice. I want us to have a thriving team so that the organization can achieve big things together. And so I like to design participation. And this is about just being intentional about how you invite employees to participate in decision making, how you invite stakeholders. It's really being intentional about relationships and input. After that, it's asking insightful questions. I'm sure you've all heard of coaching, and I see Mary is an executive coach. And so coaching is certainly, right, you don't have to have all the answers all the time. And that's a really big difference between command and control. I'm in charge, I know what's best, versus courageous leadership, human-centered leadership. You don't have, the boss doesn't have to have all the answers, but the boss is often really asking really brilliant, insightful questions. And then finally, strengthening your brave conversations. Big results don't come easily. And so often you have to have hard conversations, whether it's hard performance feedback or team members not getting along, or a difficulty with a client or a supplier. Being able to have difficult conversations in a respectful, collaborative way. That's what leads to big results. So I want to make sure that we have enough time for any discussion. So for now, I'll quickly go over this values exercise, but I'll let you do it on your own. The first step for courageous leadership is getting really clear about what we value as an individual. And then in a team setting, I would do how that ties to the organizational values. And so there is a really handy chart that you can use, and I can distribute it with TJ. It's a common list of lots of common values. And it's really great to take a few minutes in your leadership development time to see what most resonates with you as a leader. Some people are led by service. Some people are led by like performance. Some people are led by leading and learning. My values, I am just hardwired for connection. I just can't help myself. And I didn't know until maybe about 10 years ago that everyone else's brains didn't think that way. My husband's brain thinks more about like how to get the task done and, oh, maybe I should be nice to the person. Mine is the exact opposite. Like I'm so immediately drawn to the people in the question and, oh yeah, I guess we should get something done together. So everyone's values are different and no one's values are right or wrong, but it's good to get clear on what yours are. And my other value is curiosity. And it really helps to go back to your time as a kid. I would ask questions, like I probably drove my parents mad of why does that work and how I shoot that scene. Like I'm just interested in the how behind everything. And so one of my values is curiosity. And I'm okay with that. It's just getting okay with who you are and what is naturally in your DNA. So I'll leave that with you as an exercise for you to do sometime. You might have your values already articulated, and some of you might already. You know what? And that is one thing that I would love to, maybe in the time that we have left, I'd love to hear if any of you already have your values defined personally, or if you have your values defined in your business or your team. I think that would be really interesting to hear from you if you already have them, or some initial thoughts of what they might be, even if you don't have them written down and defined. I'd love to hear from anyone about what are some of your values.
So I've done this exercise already, so
Okay.
I can say my top two values are loyalty and truth. And
True.
I think loyalty is basically self-explanatory. I'm very, I guess, if anybody's familiar with Clifton Strengths, my top two strengths are relator and individualizer. The
Mhm.
relator means I adopt people. If I decide that you are now part of my extended family, I take care of you like you're in my nuclear family. So
Okay.
when somebody betrays that trust in terms of like if I care for you, I don't necessarily expect to have like full reciprocation, but I also don't expect to have somebody backstab me or shun me or
Sure.
anything like that. So
Yeah.
it's very clear cut to me when that happens that I disown them because I put a lot of energy into
Right.
to who they are or uplifting their and giving them opportunities and championing them. So if that goes sour, then they don't get a second chance.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So loyalty, and what was the other one?
Truth. And that one I don't have quite as defined. It's
Okay.
a little similar to honesty, but I think what comes to mind when I say honesty is not always like a tactful way of explaining
Right.
how things are or how you feel.
Right.
And I love the concept of being able to speak your truth, of telling the story that is true to you.
Mhm.
And there is certainly like an aspect where there are facts, but the emotions that you experienced are just as much a fact
Yeah.
as the rest of it.
And part of your truth. Yes, that's great. Thank you, TJ. That's fantastic. 5 out of 5 of my top Clifton strengths are in relationships.
Wow.
Really, really strong on that
I
side.
need to see the rest of your list.
Oh, I was kind of disappointed at first, to be honest, because I was hoping for some of those executors to be somewhere up there. But,
Nope.
you know, you got to come to terms with your strengths and you got to partner with others that are different because we can all bring what we need to the table. So that's great. Yeah. Any others that know their values? Mary, I wonder if you do?
Oh, absolutely. Candor and integrity and trust are the things that are the top of my list.
Okay.
As a coach, it is incredibly important that people have trust in me and I in them in order to have the relationship that we have and to always stay in integrity. And then, really the candor part is something I've had to cultivate because I'm naturally, would be not so open to give candid feed forward types of advice, but it is something that is such a gift. I see it as a gift to myself, and I look at it that way so that I'm more comfortable with giving that candid feed forward advice to my clients as an advisor and a coach.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you, Mary. That it's so different. Like I love the word candid, and I think it's a really respectful but not timid, right? Like it's like, let's share what's on our minds, let's share our expertise, and let's bring things forward. So I love that. That's great. Thank you. Any others that either know your values or know your team's values?
Yeah, hi Trina. Sorry, this is Simon. I was late joining, but
Hi.
thanks
Glad you're here.
Thanks for doing what you've done. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting because we just had a team, which is why I'm late. We had a team, whole team together today, and we had a whole day with the team, and we were looking at team values and I think the biggest characteristic for what I consider to be an excellent team is selflessness. So each team member, if they can, every act they perform, they're trying to say, how does this make it better for somebody else in the team, right? Rather than me shining, how do I make somebody else shine?
Love that.
Because if everybody does that, the team is going to excel, right?
That's great. That's really great. Thank you.
So selflessness, I think, is the-
Selflessness.
Yeah.
And I love how you've taken that and defined it and articulated what that looks like. So that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks.
It also sounds like that's a really high trust team too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you have to trust that the people will have your back and will have your best interest at heart, right? And if all the team members do that, it's going to be an outstanding team.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Was there any others that were curious about sharing either your personal values or some team or organizational values?
Well, I haven't done the exercise, but certainly to me, service, even though we're a back office organization, customer service to me is extremely important. And just overall, my daughter said to me one time, "You really value service, right?" And service for others. And but then, to me, it's similar to what Simon was saying, ensuring that you've got your teammates back, right? One of the things that I feel is tremendous about the team I'm lucky enough to be a part of is the fact that a lot of people who have been with the company for a long time understand that how they fit into the organization and how critically important they are when they get their job done to the success of the team.
Yes.
So that is, and then essentially backing each other up when is necessary. So
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
that is, especially when you're in a global 24/7 service or organization, to know that you can count on your teammates to be able to pick up for you.
Yeah. That's great. So I heard in the middle there, I heard contribution, like, how you contribute to the organization's goals. I love that. And I loved your service one. That's like, right, always being of service to others in some way. And I wonder what the knowing you have each other's backs could be called.
Yeah,
I
I don't
guess
know, but I
trust.
mean, one of the
Yeah.
things, just
It's
in
trust, I
general,
think.
yeah, I
Maybe
agree.
it's
There's a
trust.
lot of trust. Yeah.
Maybe that's an example of trust, and it would be interesting as you do the exercise and think about it, how do you know when you see it in action? Maybe like assuming the best of the other person,
Mhm.
or you hear something and you give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't assume ill intent, you assume good intent, maybe.
Sure.
And helping one another out in hard times, or that's a really great one. That's a great one. And my daughter came home from kindergarten and said that yesterday. She said something about a playground, dispute or something. And she's like, "But my friends had my back. Don't worry, Mom. My friends had my back." And so that'd be interesting. I like that phrase, and figuring out, the behaviors that you'd like to see displayed. So that's really great. Thank you so much, Mark.
But the thing about trust, is you have, in a team, you have to be able to develop trust, even if you don't necessarily like the people.
Yeah.
You may not socialize with people, but absolutely they have your back, and you have full trust in them.
Agreed. Totally agreed. You don't have to be BFFs. You don't have
Exactly.
to. Yeah, you don't have. I agree. You don't have to be friends
and you don't even have to have the same working styles or even the same complete
Yeah.
values, right? We were just talking about in the whole scenario, when the gentleman who I said that we were able to retain, which gave me joy.
Yes.
Because when you're with a company for 28 years, you are emotionally invested, right?
Oh yeah.
So that was, we were able to do that. But we have other people who have almost as much of a contractor mentality. It's that I have my family, I have my own
Right.
perfect way to do it, but I do realize that I have something to contribute to this team,
Mhm.
and I know where I fit in. And
Yeah.
despite the fact that they have a different mental attitude towards it, doesn't
Mhm.
make it wrong.
Right.
And as long as you don't make it seem like it's wrong from a leadership
Right.
perspective, they can still contribute and be part of that.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Much agreed. Much agreed. Yeah. So true. So true.
I really like that
Another-
point about needing like the leadership to not make it seem like there was something wrong with that behavior.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
Just different styles.
there was a lot of people who felt, who came to me and says, well, he came in as a contractor. Why is he still here? He's not putting the same amount of time. I'm like, we established this when we brought him on as a full-time employee. It was knowing the way that his work did, but he's a fabulous worker. He does
Yeah.
what he needs to do, but he does compartmentalize things. to a certain
Right.
extent.
Yep.
And we were able to work things out. And so what happens is that, for example, he's in charge of, he takes on call during the day, all day, every day that he works, so that he doesn't do on call at night, but he also takes on monthly patching. So he knows that he's got 2 to 3 hours to be able to do that. And he also does a lot of scripting. So,
Right.
so that time that he can get back, he puts in to his scripting, so he knows he can give back to his family.
Right.
You're utilizing the
The
things
strength.
that are important to him to grow him.
Exactly. And even if those aren't all identical for all the same employees, they're like in the spirit of equal treatment, but it doesn't, equity, right? It's equity, but it's not exact equal same treatment. So
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
was hard, right? Because otherwise, this is not fair. What
Right.
he's doing.
it can't be identical. Fair is not identical.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very, very useful discussion. Any other chats about either your personal values or team values or organizational values?
Yeah, so one organizational value that I wanted to talk about. So I come from a company that has traditionally been very risk averse, right? So we talk
Okay.
about nuclear power plants and things like that. Electricity, you want to be double sure before you do anything.
Mhm.
As we are going into a transformation as an organization, we are talking about clean energy and completely changing our fuel sources and all
Wow.
that in the next few years. We don't even know how we are going to be able to do that. We have a goal, but we don't know how to get there. So we are undergoing a
Right.
tremendous cultural transformation for learning
Yeah,
at an organizational level. How do we inculcate that growth mindset in the employees to have a
exactly.
learning mindset for whatever they do? So that's one thing that I'm seeing right now in my organization
Yes.
at the organizational level and team level, and that resonates very deeply with me as an individual as well. So that's a cascade I'm seeing.
And you
across.
value learning?
Yes, I do.
You value learning. So it's a good fit there.
Yep.
But it's a learning curve for others. It's an adjustment for others that maybe
Yep.
value stability or certainty, right? They might value that. So this
Yep.
seems like a really difficult
Shift.
change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
that's great to recognize. Yep. That's great. Thank you. Well, I recognize that we're nearing the end of our time. So I thought I would just close with basically your thanks for the discussion and your input about learning how to be a stronger manager and a better human at the same time, and being a courageous leader where you can thrive as a manager and an organization and employees. So thank you so much for having me. I've so enjoyed chatting with you tonight. Do you take a group picture at all, TJ? Would that be appropriate, or people maybe
That's
might
a
be comfortable?
great, I always forget to do that. So if y'all are open to it, please come on camera and let's do a group picture.
I'm in the
gonna-
car, but there you go.
Okay, I'll take the picture quickly. Let's let me grab the screenshot thing, and then I'm gonna ask that you. Okay, hold on, because the moment I hit the screen share or screen print button, it freezes the thing. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I actually have to save it down and make sure it goes somewhere.
You got it?
Let me just double check that it came out well, that we didn't all have our eyes closed at least.
Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
I must be allergic to having my photograph taken.
You might be, Simon.
Yes, you know how shy and retiring I am, TJ.
Yeah, that's you, Simon. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. No, okay, that came out great. Thank you.
By the way, a phenomenal photo of you, TJ, on LinkedIn.
Oh, thank you.
That was phenomenal, yeah.
So good. So good. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the discussion tonight.
Thank you so much,
Great
Trina.
job, Trina.
Yes,
Well,
thank you,
Thank
Trina.
you. Thanks so much. Take good care.
Take
have a
care.
great
Bye.
night. Bye-bye.
Good night, guys.